indicator for a personal trainer that they are ready to take their business out of a commercial gym and to the next level?
All right, so I'll go first.
Let's
If you
take
would.
this away.
I would say the best way for a trainer to know when it's time to take it to the next level or leave a commercial gym is going to be when they reach that peak, right? Commercial gyms, their goal is really to make money for the gym and not necessarily the trainer itself. And so they're going to be charging a certain rate. They're going to be taking a certain percentage and a cut. And the problem with that is that what tends to happen is trainers reach a ceiling with how much they can earn. And when you reach that ceiling, there's only so many hours in a day that you can work. And when you reach that ceiling, it becomes a rubber meets the road kind of moment. And so that's probably going to be the best time for a trainer to look to take their business to the next level because the goal is going to be to have a work life balance that they can earn a healthy living, right? Service their clients at a high level, not get burnt out, and enjoy life.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better, man. Like a lot of times, most trainers go into a big box gym or commercial gym with this expectation of making like a lot of money because when you look at social media, online, celebrity trainers, it's a lucrative like buy-in, you know? But then the reality sets in when you go and it's like you can't even work unless you have a degree or you're certified at least to start. Then you got to make sure you have like a CPR certification. So like these things kind of like start to weigh on the person, and then before you see it, like that motivation starts to like very thin out, and then that person's like, oh, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then let's say that person does surpass those first layers. They make it to a commercial gym, they're making minimum wage. They start to notice like making this into a living is actually a little bit challenging. So then they rely on a side hustle. And then that creates like a whole nother challenge that they have to overcome. So like once you meet those like challenges and you understand that like you need to take the leap because one, you've already spent time in the commercial environment, you've trained a lot of clients, you're experiencing burnout, you're considering a second job. That's when you need to be like, you know what, instead of putting more things on my plate, let me go into a more professional environment, let me start to increase my rate, let me learn a little bit more, let me apply myself a little bit more, and then make those leaps and bounds because it's not going to happen overnight. So it's one of those things where like you need to experience that burnout, put yourself in that environment of the commercial gym so you see what they do for personal training so you can start to create a separation between the two. So I think that's where a trainer would start. That's where they could be like, you know what, it's time for me to make my move. You know, because it like hypothetically speaking, let's say if you're in that position, you make the move too soon and too prematurely, and you've never dealt with like consultation after consultation after consultation, you won't know how to sell it to like somebody comes in and you're like, hey, your monthly dues are in the high hundreds, thousands per month, you know? And then you don't have that resilience or the confidence to see a sale through and close it yourself because once you don't have that commercial umbrella, you have to do the sale, you got to process the payments, you got to do everything. So you better have your ones and twos in check. Yeah. So that's where I would put it.
What are some examples of business opportunities or business models outside of a commercial gym?
You can have that one. You go first, D.
All right. So if we're talking about opportunities, so first I would say you got supplement companies. So you can partner up with some supplement companies. There's a lot of local brands now, and you can start getting involved with going into fitness events, getting exposure, and they'll usually pay you. Either they'll pay you through supplements, some gear, or usually some good old cash. Another one I would say is you got to start branching out into different training modalities. Like you can start specializing in certain things. Like you can do a little massage therapy as well. So that way you can upsell your services. So that way it's not just training, you know. But I don't want to just go through the whole list. Those are two that I got.
All right, yeah, like I agree with that. Definitely want to do some soft tissue work. Definitely want to get into supplements and some brand marketing kind of stuff like that. I want to say think about different types of training, right? Different niches, different actually direct groups that you're going to work with. So some of it can be corrective exercise and post therapy stuff, right? People that are dealing with injuries and rehabbing. Some of it can be sports specific stuff if you like that, right? Helping different athletes work with different things. So trying to branch out, not of just like general fitness, mom and pop weight loss stuff, but thinking about how many different, I guess, populations can you service, right? Another thing is going to be online training. So thinking about going online, servicing people that aren't in your immediate vicinity. Here at the Ludus, like we have the luxury of having a lot of community around us, but also there are people in other states, other countries that we can service just by being available and having that knowledge base. Another thing you can think about that pairs very well with training is nutrition coaching too. A lot of trainers really just focus on the physical aspect, but thinking about the body from a completely holistic model is also going to be beneficial. Yeah, small group training.
Once a trainer is ready to move their business out of a commercial gym and into a private gym, what are some things to look for and look out for when considering a gym? Think red flags, green flags.
Oh, for starters, but you got an LLC. Yeah, that's the first thing you need to get out of the gate, because it's all fun and games until the government wants to know where your money's coming. Yeah. So you need an LLC. Secondly, you need a personal training insurance. You need to have either you need to have a full client roster, or you better be ready to put your hustle. Yeah. And then from there, just time management skills, because no one's gonna stop you from skipping sessions. No one's gonna stop you from making sure that you clients are paying on time, things of that nature. Yeah. So
But the question was, because that's you kind of jumping ahead. Once a trainer is ready to move their business out of a commercial gym and into a private gym, when they think they found a private gym to take their business to, what are some red flags and green flags to look into before they commit to like
For the
renting
gym or
space?
for the trainer?
No, for the trainer to look out for, like when they go tour a gym to possibly take their
So
business.
I would say some of the things you look for, green flags, are going to be professionalism, cleanliness, vibe. Like, is the environment going to be something conducive to something that you enjoy? Red flags are going to be, I guess, micromanaging, not being clean, or not having the equipment that your clients are going to be expecting, right? If you go into a gym or you've been at a commercial gym or you've been working with certain types of equipment, you as a trainer may be cool, modifying the workout and things like that, but your clients may be expecting a completely different experience. So you can go from the most kitted out gym to an open box, and you may have the creativity to create something, but your clients can be like, I'm not here for that, So understanding what your clients need is as important as understanding what you want as a trainer.
yeah, I think having that ability to anticipate your client's needs is a green flag. One is understanding the type of environment that your clients are looking for. You know what? The thought just crossed my mind. A lot of trainers don't put the client experience into mind, and they only think about themselves as a trainer and what they're going to get out of the experience rather than like, how is the client going to feel when they come into my training experience? Are they going to be leaving happy? Are they going to be excited to come back? Like, from a business standpoint, if you can get a customer to come back to your business twice in one day to purchase twice in one day, that's a good business.
Or even if you think about that's a great business. But if you think about as a trainer or as a fitness, situation is you want your business, you want your training, you want your, gym to be the first thing on someone's mind when they think about your service. When someone's like, man, I want to get a workout in, they're not thinking about, oh, can I go to LA Fitness? Can I go to 24-hour fitness? Can I go, go for a run in the park? You're like, oh no, let me see if, Brandon or Danny or whoever has availability today. Right? Like you want that person to think about your training or your programming, your whatever to be the first thing on top of mind.
That goes a long way, man. If you can retain clients, be able to service them, those are green flags. You know, red flags are, trainers who are dealing with a lot of like their ego, too much of their personality, and not like personality of like who you are, but like the personality of the ego,
100%.
you know. So if you can calm your ego down sometimes and understand that there's a balance of like you are in a service industry, so like you need to take in consideration the client experience, it can go a long way for your business.
I'll say one thing trainers always forget, right? And then I remember the first personal training job that I took, the manager told me this. He was like, I understand like you and your client may be into it and you guys may have a great relationship and stuff like that. But when you're training, especially in a commercial gym, you're on a stage. You're not doing it just for your client. You're doing it for the other five people who are working out on their own who are looking maybe to hire a personal trainer. Right. So in a private facility is different. Like nobody's really paying attention. But if you're a trainer at a commercial gym, always remember like whenever you're training your client, you're auditioning other potential clients. And so your goal is to always make sure that that session is as engaging, as professional, and as stand out as it can be.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's a good point you made. It's almost like in the commercial environment, you're on a platform, you're showcasing, you're constantly being watched by potential clients, and that can either go in a good way or a bad way. Yeah, that's an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, that was a great one. So, how to transition your clients out of the commercial gym? What are some tips for bringing up the conversation to your client, transparency, and how to continue the payments and pricing?
That's a good one. So the way I got to transition from a commercial gym, first you got to know where you're gonna go. Because if you're just going to tell your clients like I'm leaving and you got nowhere to take them, they're good luck. So one, find out where you're going. Second, establish some sort of a form of payment. I mean, if you don't have an LLC in place or any way to process any kind of payments, just take checks. I would try to stay away from cash just to increase your professionalism. Once you're able to get a check, then you're like, all right, I'm on my first step to business. Then you got to open up the bank account, start depositing the check, and definitely get into the square stuff, right? But that took me some time. I actually lived on like the whole check stuff for like a while. And then it wasn't until I got into a private training gym where I was like, you know what? Like, I need to show my statements to the IRS. I need to be able to increase the payments. I need to make sure I can charge them on a monthly basis. And like, I can't always be like, hey, bring me a check, bring me a check, bring me a check. So during that process, you start learning of these available options of like Square, Stripe, PayPal, even now, and you can start taking payments left and right, and that's going to help you do business. One thing that a lot of people don't understand is that there's a whole industry for just doing business. Yeah, taking payments. So like they have free options, they have options you can pay. You can really, in my opinion, in this day and age, if you can't take a payment in less than 10 seconds, something's wrong. Yeah, yeah. So by setting that up, that's going to help the trainer transition a lot smoother and faster because chasing clients for payments can really deter a trainer from wanting to pursue this professionally.
When I have decided to branch out on my own, that was like the first thing that I honed in. And I was like, because at a commercial gym where I was, like, it was the gym processing payments. I never had to. I just show up and train, right? And then I got a paycheck. And then I was like, well, damn, I have X number of clients, right? I got like 20, 25 people, all on different payment schedules. Like, how am I going to do that? That's the very first thing I would say as a trainer is like, figure that out. Figure out how you're going to process payments, figure out how you're going to take payments, and be very transparent with your clients that that's gonna be your process going forward. Like you said, make sure you have a place to go first. Lock that in before you decide to leave the commercial gym. The next thing is gonna be is to have the conversation with your clients, but don't pressure them, right? I would say, hey, go to whoever your clientele is, and each person individually tell them your end date, whenever you're gonna leave, the commercial gym, your start date, wherever it's gonna be, the location it's gonna be at, and let them have the conversation, let them have the decision to follow you or not. To lay it out, point blank, I'm doing this for X reason, right? For my business to take off, whatever your reasons are. But be humanistic and tell them truly what it is. Be transparent and let them decide if they want to follow you or not, if they want to support you or not. That would be the next step. And then after that, if they decide to follow you or if they're on the fence, is let them see the new facility that you're going to be going to so they can understand where their new environment is going to be. And they'll typically oftentimes give you feedback on that.
Yeah, and you can't take it. personal if a client says, "Hey, I'm not gonna follow you," because there are clients who are like, "Hey, I enjoy training with you, but the larger picture is I enjoy being at that facility or that commercial gym." And then you're gonna start to understand your type of crowd, the people that you can service. And the biggest advice I would say to anybody that's listening to this is just don't take it personal. Like brush it off and keep doing business.
It's called personal training, but don't take any of this
But
stuff
don't take it personal. Yeah. Yeah. People are gonna just be in the mood and they're just gonna be like, yo, I'm done training. And you should be like, okay, I'll see you later. And then they'll call you back in like a year.
6 months, 3 months.
And then they'll train with you again. Yeah. That has more impact than like you being like, oh, what the heck? And then you start like crashing out on them and then you're out, and burn a bridge there.
What are some tips for that trainer to guarantee success when it comes to structuring your work days to prevent burnout? So this trainer just left a commercial gym and now they've got to handle payment processing, organizing their days, work-life balance, their own workouts.
Well, at that transitional phase, I don't think there's like a balance. You definitely have to like hit the ground running.
But I would say, yeah, I mean, well, tools are going to be whatever payment platform you're gonna have. Keep your calendar tight. You know what I'm saying? If you're in a position to transition from commercial gym to your own private business, hopefully you have some organizational skills. Because if you don't have that, you're gonna crash and burn. I will say prioritize your self care. Right? That means working out. That means being able to have time to process payments because it all can't just be training. Yeah, training is what pays the bills, but if you're not healthy, right? If you're not working out, if you're not living the lifestyle, then you're not really able to sell that to people. You can't tell people, yeah, you can't tell people like, hey man, you gotta live a healthy lifestyle. I'm here to train you and service you, but I don't have time to train myself. Like you gotta block that time out for yourself and leave that as a time where you're taking care of your workouts, your programming, shoot, lunch times, all that kind of stuff. Because in the beginning, you're like, I gotta train to earn. Well, the reason why you got into this, especially to do it on your own and not in a commercial gym, is to make sure you prioritize that balance, right? To be able to service the people that you want to service, that you can service, that will pay you for it, but also to make sure that you have.
Right. Time management is going to be key. And then having that ability to charge appropriately so that you can create the time gaps that you need. Like, if you know that you have to make at least X amount of money a day to cover your expenses, then try to meet that number through whatever number of sessions you can meet, the least amount of sessions you can meet. And then you start filling in the gaps. Not always are you going to hit a home run and be like, my whole schedule's filled with everybody paying me top dollar, but you can build that up over time, little by little, and then you structure yourself. But that takes time.
Yeah, and you're not gonna have it all perfectly figured out. You know what I'm saying? The day one when you start your new personal training business, but have patience, right, and understand that it's a process.
This is a long game. If you're able to play the long game in personal training, you're going to do wonderful. Nobody I met that tries to play the short game ends up well in the personal training industry. I'll see people come and they hit the ground running hard. They're trending. People love them. They want to hit with them hard. They want to train with them all day, every day. And next thing you know, they mismanage a lot of the structure and then burn out. And then they either get demotivated and they have no passion into fitness no more, or they just lack any people skills at that point.